Welcome to Out is Through, a podcast about living a meaningful life in difficult times. I'm Larry Lariosa, and I'm a life coach and licensed marriage and family therapist. In these uncertain times, maintaining a sense of well-being and purpose feels more challenging, yet more important than ever. In this podcast, I'll feature guests who have used their life experience, passion, and creativity to find personal meaning and deeper connection. As the saying goes, the only way out is through. And I hope these conversations help inspire you to live life to its fullest. So thanks for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Welcome to another episode of Out is Through, a podcast about living a meaningful life in difficult times. My name is Larry Lariosa, your host, and today's episode is the first of what I'm going to call my mini episodes. No guests, just me, and I will be on vacation for about 2 weeks. I'm going to Basque Country, so by the time you hear this, I should be in San Sebastian on a beach, hopefully somewhere. But my personal goal was to complete and release a few episodes before I left on vacation. And that I did. So if you haven't had a chance to hear them, please go back and listen to episodes 1, 2, and 3 with Laon Kanabi, with Dr. Natalie Pearson, and with Jose Alaman. And all three were so wonderful to do. So wonderful to hear their stories and hear what they're doing in their lives to create meaning and community. And there were a lot of overlaps, even though each story was different. I just want to highlight what some of those were. In all of the interviews, they talk about the importance of intention and purpose. What is your motivation? Laon talks a lot about this in organizing and being maybe a more shy person. What is your intention and how can you hyper-focus on that instead of maybe all the things on the outside that would make you a little bit more shy or self-conscious? Natalie talks about how before she even went to grad school, she started to track down what she was really good at and what she enjoyed, and how that process led her to notice what her strengths are, like talking to people and bringing people together and getting to know their stories. And then Jose talks about this in the context of creating loving your awkward self and just being patient with the process, especially when you're early on and really nurturing it and not letting it be out in the world just yet, but building a relationship with it and having some patience that it's going to take a while for whatever you want to come to fruition, because that's how these things work. All three of them really talk about the importance of community, and that's a big part of meaning, is being with other people. And I think about the wonderful definition that Brene Brown has of belonging, which is more about showing up in a space as you are versus fitting in where you're trying to be whatever that dominant group wants you to be. And I think community is all about belonging, right? That we want to be seen and we want to share all wonderful parts of ourselves. And sometimes, like in my case, I don't think there's one community that really sees all of me. So I try to think of it as, well, I have multiple communities and some are going to meet certain needs and others are not. And the more important thing is to just be in community versus isolate. All three of them needed others to get to where they are. Laon needed that tattoo artist to introduce them to the concept of indigenous art and tattooing. Natalie needed people that were like-minded, and she also needed mentors, and that may have taken the form of books and authors and wise minds. Jose needed mentors. He needed somebody to help him with that process of making videos and honing in on his vision. And then he also talks about the gay softball community that provide him with that sense of belonging. And then all of them seem to have this really strong desire to help the communities that they belong to. And that also can bring us a sense of meaning that we are part of something bigger, that we are not just ourselves, that we're actually leaving something behind, or we are building bridges, as Laon talks about, or we are helping educate through our experiences so that hopefully the next generation has it a little easier. I think Natalie's a great example of that in her work. All three of them exhibited a level of bravery to do what they do, whether it be sticking up for your values and sticking up for your family and ancestors, or whether it be pushing through your internal shame and letting yourself be seen. I think that requires such bravery. And really, the only way out is through. If you want to get out of the rut you're in, or get out of the loneliness, or attain that goal that you're pursuing, you have to go through it. And going through it requires a level of courage and bravery that all three of them pushed through to get what they wanted. Another thing that's talked about is authenticity and living in accordance to values. Jose talks about that. It doesn't mean we get it right all the time, but it just makes life easier. And yes, you're going to be in positions where you are going to have to stick up for your values with somebody who may not share the values, but in every battle, you've got allies, and that goes back to the importance of community. And the last thing I want to say is they all mentioned education, that it took learning and unlearning, right? That sometimes it's not knowing and not hearing about ourselves and our histories, or not being represented, that understandably makes us feel like we're not important or we're not seen. And to reference that Bell Hooks quote again, education is a practice of freedom. Knowing is power. Knowing, I experienced this in my process of making my film, that for me, not knowing, I truly felt lost, like a tree without roots. When you're a tree without roots, your ability to stay anchored is dependent on the wind around you, or the lack of wind. And when you have roots, you're firmly grounded. And I have found that education and learning has been my path to feeling a sense of meaning, belonging, and freedom. And I think all three of our speakers referenced that as well. So I'm going to go and enjoy my vacation, but I wanted a chance to thank all of you for listening to the podcast. We have so many more interviews that I'm trying to bring in to the space. And I just want to thank all of you for helping me get this started, for listening, for supporting. And if you like this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to them on, please subscribe, as that helps with the algorithms so that you can get content like this. But it also just helps me get this podcast out in the world. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for your support. I will be back first week of June with a brand new episode. And until then, take good care. Thanks. The views expressed by the speakers are their own, and their appearance on the podcast does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Out is Through is a podcast for entertainment and educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are in need of support, please seek out a licensed mental health professional in your area.